Yes.
The liquidity you just talked about,
right.
I mean, for everything that has an advantage, there definitely will be a disadvantage.
Right.
The banks have been, saying that we should be careful. We should approach this with caution because they fear that it could cause a liquidity squeeze. Do you see that coming?
I like you to look at that vis-a-vis what I've just explained. Mm-hmm. This country, people always look at the one that favors them fast and hit you fast. Mm-hmm. I'm talking as a neutral man here, as a finance man.
And as an accountant.
Yes, an accountant.
Many people are accountants.
Yes, this is simple. I free to go to NFGA to go and raise some billions at deposit. Succeed with the man, talk over tea, and we agree. And next morning, the money he run into my bank, and I can do anything I want to do with it. That's the fund that belongs to you and I. And so it goes on like that. And the banks were better with this kind of arrangement. But what this single thing they're trying to do is to redirect the fund to the central bank. You remember there was a time the government, because they were unable to fight this thing, they came out with the fact that all government money in banks should be channeled back to central bank. I hope you remember.
Yes.
And those were indirect way of doing the same thing we're trying to do now. But I think the central bank is the banker's bank. It's a bank of last resort. So if they have this fund and they have liquidity, they can go to the central bank and take some money. But see, this is a situation where my major worry about it is that we've lost accountability, we've lost transparency, we've lost the whole thing is process. So if it can be done, I like it to be done holistically.
Okay. At that time too, in 2013, they also said they were giving deadlines for MDAs and agencies to comply with what they referred to at that time as the government integrated financial management system. And then they talked about this integrated payment payroll system as well. So if they go ahead and lump all of those, how is it going to overcome the bureaucratic bottleneck that people have always tried to avoid?
Thank you. I don't see bureaucratic bottleneck if there are systems and properly followed. I just said they had financial instructions which they use, which they apply in most of this government. All they will need to look at those things again in line with this policy and see how you can fine-tune it. Let me use a simple example. Even in companies where you have impress system, if you have whatever, you look at it. Okay.
Well, impress too will be drawn from.
Yeah,
that,
I'm just giving an example. Yeah, so anything can be arranged to make sure you ease up some of those urgent needs that can make sure the thing becomes functional. That's why I use that impress system. In a normal organization where you have people putting their fund to a particular account, you design system to make sure things move fast as you want to. So I believe it has to be done holistically. I'm not just saying we just take it one hook, line, and sinker. Let's look at this and see how it goes. Then how does it affect the efficiency we're trying to achieve?
Let's the sector by sector efficiency and assessment.
Yes.
That might be one area that might be affected because it might affect each sector differently. But can this be properly monitored, or would it be properly streamlined to ensure that each sector is able to move optimally?
Yes, I think one good thing I want to say here that from the president's visit to the U.S., something we took away from there is that they found that the best Nigerians are there, and they are doing very well in the U.S., even the healthcare and everything. This is one example we can attract people with good knowledge of system-driven thing to see how you can integrate the whole thing to work. What I'm saying is we have people here in this country, even right here, without even going that far there, that can help them to synchronize this thing and make sure it works. But let's not lose the benefit of what we're trying to achieve here, what they're trying to achieve. Is that all those policies we're trying to force the MDA to do those years cannot be done indirectly without forcing anybody. What I'm saying, you don't need a sledgehammer to push them to say, go and do this, and they don't do it. Now, it's like
it's step change. Hold the funds.
It's step change. Fine, don't bother to fight anybody anymore.
So in other words,
just
all those unspent budgetary funds, the MDAs will not be in charge of them anymore.
Thank you.
It will be
there, you see it in the account, and the government will see it. And it helps transparency, like I say, and planning. Okay. And also liquidity. What I mean liquidity, this economy is large, And when you have all these little things coming from all the sources, it put into a pool, it becomes easy for you to see, yes, that's what you're going to do to put to other areas.
This is what I'm controlling.
Yes, you know what I'm saying. It's, like, for now, it's scattered and it's not, nobody knows where the funds are.
I just wonder how.
Yeah, just one more thing before we go. I think maybe you can bring it into this attempt, they say, to increase the value of the naira. Only recently, the banks now, although CBN disagree with them, they're limiting cash withdrawals with the ATM to 60,000 naira. It used to be 150,000 naira. And then they also say that, well, that's daily withdrawal limit. And then foreign currency is $300 per day. So one wonders, this policy that they're bringing, although CBN says, look, they've got issues with all of those. And we thought that they normally have those meetings, they agree before they implement. How is this, for instance, going to affect or enhance the value of the naira?
I believe we are still operating a system where the bank will work with line with monetary policies issued by the central bank. And I cannot imagine where the commercial bank would do something and CBN is saying they didn't give that guideline. That's strange to me. But to answer your question, and I think the whole thing about the foreign currency thing we've been hearing for some time, I see it as aimed at achieving the overall plan of the president of making 1 naira to $1. You remember the campaign the campaign promises. That's my own general overview. But having said that, I also believe too that maybe when the ministers are fully in place, some of these things will now be properly harmonized and see how we can move on. The whole idea is that the dollar price, the income from revenue from dollar is dropping. From oil, I mean, is dropping. And we need to have other sources to manage our external reserve and other stuff. And so if you continue to deplete what you have and you're not adding to it, then we are heading for a rock. So I think the whole thing, purpose generally is the general goal, or to see how do you increase our reserves, how do we remain very strong as a country, given the population
by restricting our access to funds? Is that how they increase it?
I'm with you. We're looking at the size of this economy. It's quite a big economy. So we need to find out ways we can. But when you say restrict our access, some of the frivolous things we used to do, I think it should be curtailed. Like, I listened to one of your programs here recently when somebody was talking, you import toothpicks when we have a lot of wood in our forests and things like that. People have set up factories here. And we're talking about growing SMEs. SME is the engine of growth.
Exactly, but
why will you want to...
Something that policy, it just mainly scratching the surface. Because if you do not have those SMEs, if you don't strengthen them with fiscal policy and ensure that some of those policies actually favor them, we don't manufacture. What's interest rates, for instance? If some countries give 3%, here, 20, 21, 22,
yes,
squeeze companies out of existence.
The interest rate thing is a thing I cannot really discuss here within the short time. It takes a long time to bring your interest rate down in the economy.
Coupled with the fact that you don't have loans on a long-term basis. Only
all those are things they need to look at, because short-term thing and everything is short-term. The commercial bank actually live on short-term thing. They won't give you long-term thing to be able to favor you. But I think to answer your question, SME is the engine of growth. And I think no economy can really be strong without looking at the SME. I think they are looking at that. The previous government came out with policies about the SME, the 220 billion for which has been targeted at 60% for women in business and others to grow SME. Those things are still at the CBN being used. And I also believe that whoever is coming will not want to truncate those sound policies. I believe strongly that the foolish things are still there, but most people don't really understand where to go. That's why you still talk about a small business going to a commercial bank to look for a loan. That's not where they're supposed to go. There are intervention funds here and there. And like I said, it took Pixton. BOI is set up to encourage people who want to do a small company of industry, whatever. So why would someone not set up a toothpicks manufacturing company here? So if the government wants to ban such foreign exchange for toothpicks, I think it's the right thing to do.
But what they're saying is that, it's not enough to just restrict access to import things like toothpicks. You have to encourage or ensure that there are policies in place that encourages the setting up of SMEs that will produce those kinds of toothpicks. But in the absence of that, what you may encourage is smuggling.
They are there, but maybe they've not really grown a lot. Like I said, this Mr. Agaga. That was the ministry was in charge, investment. They were really working on the small SME. And when you really look at it, this economy cannot really grow without SME. So that's why solving power and transportation and road and all those things will help to make SME try better.
Shouldn't they have done that first before coming up with that policy?
Policy about toothpicks.
Restricting.
I think those are small things that can equally be done here. So you encourage people. Some SMEs are doing very well. Let me give you an example. Look at this oil and gas thing. They allow people to play the local content. Mm-hmm. Local content has done a lot in this country. A lot of Nigerians now play very well in the oil and gas sector, and they've taken hold, they're earning in dollars in their account. So I think those are things which I think should be encouraged. And the more we create awareness for people to know where to go, the better, because our graduates are coming out.
Quick one, right. This restriction, is it holistic?
Restriction.
Because you know that the cashless policy didn't affect certain aspects of government.
I don't know about that. I thought everybody is supposed to be affected, because the policies are set. If you now have to get exemption, maybe they go back to the government to get exemption. But I think overall, this 60,000 thing we just mentioned, I think is new. We're here to verify that. So I don't really know whether CBN has issued a policy on that.
Well, the banks, it's all over the place. The banks have given that.
If they are doing that, which means they must have.
People don't understand how is it that you're restricting them access to their own funds and you want to improve the narrative. So strange to a lot of people, but thank you for coming on this morning.
All right,
Mr. Eddie Osarenkhoe, former president of Finance Houses Association of Nigeria. We'll be back and focus on some of the matters here today on the program. Don't go away.